Hello and welcome. My name is Kristin Larsen, Transformational Health Coaching. If you're joining me right now, I'm discussing part 3 of 5 of my Letting Go series, which is on self-doubt, worry, insecurity, and probably just touching on worthiness and feeling like we're enough. So I'm just going to recap. And actually, before I do that, I'm just going to say, let's set the space right now. And let's just take a moment and take a deep breath. And I'm here to discuss this topic with no judgment. And I would like everyone to feel comfortable as I'm discussing this. And there's no shame or guilt. That was what I discussed in the first part of this series, was shame and guilt. And once we're able to establish that and have an awareness for it, acknowledge it and accept it. And that was moving into the second part of when I was discussing perfection and self-judgment. So just being aware of it when it comes up and acknowledging it and accepting it. And once we're able to do that, we're able to start the process of letting go of things. So part 3, as I'm discussing self-doubt and worry and insecurity, I'd just like you to take a moment and just have an awareness for when that comes up and acknowledge it and accept it, and that there's no shame or guilt in it. So I discussed the things that I really had to let go of around perfection and self-judgment. And all these things, they perpetuate with one another. So when we're talking about self-doubt and worry, for me, it was a mindset that I lived in for a very long time, and it led to anxiety and depression for me. And it's all about the story that we're creating. And we need to form a new story and disrupt the thought patterns that we have that are coming up. And that's where awareness comes in. So if we look at self-doubt and worry, and it said that when we worry, that's a cause of anxiety. And when we have doubt, that's what eventually leads to depression, and for when we're in that mindset for too long. So if we look at self-doubt and worry, I believe that there's one thing that basically leads to having that mindset, and that's presence. We're not in the present moment. We're either in the future or in the past. So we need to bring ourselves back to the present. That's the easiest, most effective thing that we can do to get our mindset back to where it is that we want to be. So how do we get back into being present? Just take a deep breath. It takes one deep breath, and if you do it a few times, you're going to ground yourself back into the present moment. And you still may be experiencing those thoughts or feelings around self-doubt or worry, but then we can go on to the next phase of that. And what's the next phase of that? Giving yourself self-compassion. This is the most crucial thing that made so much impact and change in my mindset, in my life, and just giving myself self-compassion, because if we have self-doubt and worry, in that moment, we're lacking confidence, right? So when we embrace self-compassion and we're telling ourselves that wherever we are in that moment, it may not be where we want to be, but it's okay. And we can adjust our mindset. We have the choice to adjust our mindset. And again, it's just habit. It's habit and disrupting that thought pattern that we always have that's coming up in those moments. And what's the next thing that we could do? Well, if we're having self-doubt about something, it could be the knowledge or wisdom that we have around it. And it may mean either more practice or learning a little bit more. And so I'd like to go a little bit further as well. What would it mean to, if we looked at someone else that we know that had the confidence in that task or situation that we're having self-doubt or worry about? What is it that they possess that makes them confident to navigate through that task or situation? What are the qualities that they possess and that they're bringing to the table when that comes up? So once you kind of know that, then you can look at, well, what can I do? How can I emulate that in my own way to have the confidence to make it through that task or situation? And I'm not saying that this is something that's easy again. It takes time to change the story that we're telling ourselves, because it's something that it's not true. We can easily adapt and change how we're doing something. So if you can take a moment for me right now, and if you're having self-doubt or worry about something, let's bring ourselves back into the present moment. And how did I say to do that? Just having a few deep breaths, giving yourself self-compassion right now, just telling yourself that you're doing the best you can. It's okay, and you're going to try and do some things that will make some changes, and you'll adjust. If it doesn't work, there's no failure in that. And that's another big thing, is looking at that there's no failure. It's learning. This is an opportunity to learn from what you're doing and adjust how you want in order to have the outcome that you want. The only person that's judging ourselves, whether it's a success or failure, is ourselves. And of course, we're allowing someone else to make that decision for us if we feel that they're judging us on our success or failure. I mean, there's certain jobs obviously that we do that it's based on success or failure, but it all comes down, it's learning, and how can we adjust from that learning. So what would you need to think or feel in order to not have self-doubt or worry about whatever it is that you're thinking about? What would you have to think and feel in order to have that confidence that you want, in order to be present in that situation and be confident in that situation? And if you have that right now, then I'd like to invite you to do something with me right now, is to step into that next situation where you're going to be either in that same situation doing a task or whatever that situation might be, and step into it and just embrace the qualities that you think or feel you need in order to be confident, so that you don't have the self-doubt, or so that you don't have the worry. And what does that look like? Can you see yourself navigating that situation with your new qualities that you've invited, that you've embraced? And what would stop you? What would stop you from following through with embracing those qualities? So once you have an awareness of that, and you can see that, take a step out again and step back into where you are when you're thinking about that self-doubt and worry. So then the next time when you're in that situation again, hi Connie, the next time you're in that situation again, think about those qualities that you want to have, where you have the confidence, and just remember to go through that process, that very easy process that you start with which is breathing, giving yourself self-compassion, and just thinking and embracing those qualities that you want to have in that situation. And I did mention that I was going to touch on worthiness and feeling like we're enough. And everything kind of goes together, because when we don't have the confidence that we want in a certain situation, then that's when we have the worry and self-doubt, we start judging ourselves. And we just have to change our mindset around that, like I was saying. So I'd like to leave you with this. What is it that you'd like to think and feel in the situations where you find that you have self-doubt and worry? For me, obviously, I would say confidence, but what does confidence mean to you? For me, it means to be calm, to just be myself, and to trust myself that the decisions that I'm going to be making and whoever I'm connecting with at the time or whatever I'm doing, that there's no failure in that and that I'm just learning from it. And when I start to adjust my mindset in that way, it kind of alleviates the self-doubt and worries, because I know that the pressure isn't on me. It's not in a place of success or failure. It's in a place of curiosity and learning. And also just knowing that if I'm doing the best I can, how can you do better? And that's where the self-compassion comes in. So I'd like, if anyone that's watching this, if this resonates with you, type in the comments, either self-doubt, worry, or even send me a message. Let me know what you're facing in your life right now. I'm open to powerful conversations. And always, I would love to hear any feedback or comments. Oh, actually, before I go, insecurity. And as well, I believe this ties in a lot to feeling like we're enough, our worthiness, self-judgment, perfection. Because last session I talked about perfection and that nobody is perfect. So when we're able to let go of the shame or guilt around however it is that we feel about ourselves, of any of the imperfections that we have, and begin to start the process of letting go, being aware, acknowledging and accepting that those thoughts are coming up. There's no shame or guilt around them, but changing our story. I'm going to be honest and vulnerable that I lived a lot of my life. I'm 41 years old, and I lived a lot of my life with insecurity about many different things. And when you have insecurity, it holds you back from doing a lot of things that you want to do in life, being the person that you want to be and being your authentic self. And it came to a point where I was depriving myself of being that person that I want to be because I'm holding on to insecurity. I had to change my story about the things that I was holding on to. And it started with self-compassion, because when I felt that I wasn't able to connect with myself, I wasn't able to connect with other people. And when I wasn't able to connect with other people, that's when all the insecurities came up for me, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, everything. And it all just perpetuated into one big story that I allowed it to evolve into something that was very hard to control, very hard to change. So I'm not going to, everything that I just talked about right now in regards to self-doubt and worry, I think it all applies to insecurity as well, and going through the process of letting go. So we've looked at, I'm just going to do a quick recap now. We've looked at what it is that you're holding on to in regards to either shame or guilt, self-doubt, worry, perfection, self-judgment, whatever it is that you're holding on to, you've identified that. And now you're trying to create awareness for it, and you're acknowledging it and you're accepting it. And just a moment ago, we did an exercise where we looked at what qualities it is that you want instead. And now the next time that situation comes up, you're going to have an awareness for it, you're going to acknowledge it, and you're going to accept it. And now it's up to you to change your story around that and start forming a new story and break that thought pattern that you have. So thank you so much. I kind of rambled on there, but I just want to thank you so much for visiting. I'm very grateful to be sharing my experiences that I've had throughout my life, and hopefully this helps you in some way with what you might be going through. So I wish you a wonderful night, and I always love connecting, so don't be afraid to reach out. I'm always here for support. Have a wonderful night. Take care.